You just opened Instagram to check one notification. 20 minutes later, you're still scrolling. You didn't plan to, you didn't even want to, but you couldn't stop. This isn't a lack of willpower. This is engineering. Right now, at this exact moment, your brain is being hacked by a psychological trap designed by some of the smartest behavioral scientists in Silicon Valley. They studied how slot machines keep gamblers pulling the lever for hours. And then they built that same system into your phone. The average person checks their device 2.5 times a day. That's once every 7 minutes you're awake. And it's making you more anxious, more distracted, and more addicted with every swipe. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how infinite scroll was engineered to hijack your dopamine system. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. More than 1 billion people spend an average of 3 hours per day scrolling social media. 3 hours. That's 1,095 hours per year. If you work 8 hours a day, it's like you have a second full-time job, but you're not getting paid. In fact, you're the product. And here's the scary part. Most people don't even realize how much time they're losing, because infinite scroll was designed specifically to be invisible. There's no natural stopping point, no end. Just an endless stream of content that keeps your finger swiping. Scientists recently identified a new behavioral pattern called dopamine scrolling, and it's officially recognized as a public health challenge. It's not an exaggeration, it's not hysteria, it's documented neuroscience. Every time you scroll and find something interesting, a funny meme, a viral video, a shocking comment, your brain releases dopamine. It's the same chemical released when you win money, eat your favorite food, or use drugs. Literally the same brain reward system that creates addiction in gamblers, smokers, and alcoholics. But here's the diabolical trick. Social media uses something called variable reinforcement. You never know when you'll find something good. Sometimes it's on the first scroll, sometimes it's on the 10th. This unpredictability makes your brain obsessed. It's exactly like a slot machine. You keep pulling the lever because the next one might be the big one. And the more you use it, the worse it gets. Your brain starts pruning neurons to make this reward pathway faster and more efficient. Sounds good, right? Wrong. It makes you more impulsive, less able to resist, and literally shrinks parts of your brain responsible for controlling emotions and making decisions. Teens report being almost constantly online, not a few hours, not most of the day, constantly. And this is fragmenting the attention of an entire generation, increasing anxiety, depression, and social isolation. But before you think this is just about young people without self-control, stop, because this was designed to work on everyone. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how disciplined, how aware. Your brain is operating with 200,000-year-old hardware, and tech companies have decades of research on how to exploit every vulnerability. Let's start at the origin. In 2006, a designer named Asa Raskin was working at a user interface company. He had a simple idea. What if you didn't have to click next page when browsing the web? What if content just appeared automatically as you scrolled? It seemed brilliant. It eliminated friction, made navigation smooth and effortless. Google adopted it. Facebook adopted it. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everyone adopted it. And it worked incredibly well, maybe too well, because Asa Raskin didn't foresee what would come next. In 2019, he made a devastating public confession. He deeply regretted his invention. He said literally that infinite scroll was one of the first products designed not just to help the user, but to deliberately keep them online as long as possible. He described the problem this way. If you don't give your brain time to catch up with your impulses, you just keep scrolling. No natural pauses, no stopping points, no moment for your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational decisions, to step in and say, okay, that's enough. Raskin went even further. He said it was like spreading behavioral cocaine throughout the interface, and that many designers are pressured to create addictive features because big tech companies' business models depend on it. He explained, to get the next round of investment, to increase the stock price, the time people spend on your app needs to go up. So when you put that much pressure on that single number, you're going to start inventing new ways to keep people addicted. And it's not just infinite scroll. There's an entire category of design techniques called dark patterns, specifically designed to manipulate your behavior. Autoplay is one of them. You finish watching a video on YouTube, and before you can process or decide what to do, the next one has already started. You stay, not because you actively chose to, but because choosing to stop requires more cognitive effort than just continuing to watch. Pull to refresh, that gesture of pulling down to update the feed, was modeled directly on slot machines. It's literally the same mechanic. You pull the lever and wait to see what you'll win. Sometimes it's rewarding, sometimes it's not. But the anticipation keeps you coming back. Notifications are another psychological weapon. Many of them aren't even about something actually relevant to you. They're designed to create a sense of urgency and FOMO, fear of missing out. Someone commented on your photo. You have 3 new notifications. See what you missed today. Each notification opens a dopamine loop in your brain that desperately asks to be closed. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the psychological tension of leaving something incomplete. Here's the part that makes all of this so effective: variable reinforcement. This is the central concept that turns social media into addiction machines. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered that unpredictable rewards create more addictive behaviors than consistent rewards. If you give food to a rat every time it presses a lever, it learns the pattern and presses when it's hungry. But if you give food randomly, sometimes on the first press, sometimes on the 10th, sometimes on the 20th, the rat becomes obsessed. It presses compulsively, unable to stop. This is exactly how social media works. You never know what you'll find when you scroll. Sometimes it's a hilarious post that makes you laugh out loud. Sometimes it's something shocking or outrageous. Sometimes it's boring. But this unpredictability keeps your brain in a perpetual loop of seeking and reward. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have perfectly mastered the art of variable reward schedules. They're essentially social slot machines. You scroll hoping for social validation, likes, comments, shares, but you never know when they'll come. This uncertainty creates a state of anticipation and excitement that's neurologically indistinguishable from what compulsive gamblers experience. And here's the diabolical trick. Dopamine isn't released by the reward itself. It's released by the anticipation of reward. So every time you open Instagram before you even see anything, your brain is already flooded with dopamine. You're addicted to the act of checking, not necessarily to what you find. Researchers identified this as reward prediction error encoding, a feedback loop related to dopamine signals. It's exactly the same mechanism seen in casino gamblers. There's an intense period of anticipation where dopamine neurons are extremely active, firing non-stop. But this isn't infinite. Gradually there's fatigue, and when accumulated negative results pile up, the person can become discouraged and disengaged. That's why platforms need to maintain a delicate balance between positive and neutral outcomes. If everything is good, the effect diminishes. If everything is bad, you stop using it. But if it's unpredictable, sometimes rewarding, usually neutral, occasionally frustrating, you get stuck in the loop. Scientists officially call this dopamine scrolling, and it was recently recognized as a global public health challenge. It's not an exaggeration, it's not moral panic. It's documented neuroscience showing measurable changes in brain structure. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but I'm not addicted. I just use it casually. And that's exactly what makes this so dangerous, because you're probably more affected than you think. Studies show the average person checks their smartphone 205 times a day. That's once every 7 minutes of waking hours. Even if each check only lasts 30 seconds, that represents more than 100 minutes per day just checking notifications. And we know that in reality, each quick check easily turns into 10, 20, 30 minutes of scrolling. Teens report being almost constantly online. Not most of the day, constantly. This is fragmenting the attention capacity of an entire generation. Teachers report that students can no longer complete long readings, not because they're not smart, but because their brains have literally been rewired to seek quick, variable stimuli, and the neurological effects are real and measurable. The more you use social media, the more your brain starts to prune neurons to make this reward pathway faster and more efficient. Sounds good? It's not, because this makes you more impulsive, less able to resist distractions, and literally shrinks parts of your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for impulse control, emotional regulation, and decision-making. Neuroimaging research shows that heavy social media use is associated with reduced gray matter in brain areas involved in attention, cognitive control, and emotional processing. It's the same type of structural change seen in people with substance dependence, but it doesn't stop there. Constant scrolling also impacts mental health in profound ways. It's linked to increased anxiety, depression, social isolation, sleep disorders, and low self-esteem. Why? Because social media creates a perfect environment for toxic social comparison. You're constantly exposed to edited highlights of other people's lives, perfect vacations, perfect relationships, perfect bodies, perfect careers. Your brain knows rationally that this isn't real, but the emotional part can't separate it. You feel like you're falling behind, that you're not enough, that everyone is living better lives. And the more inadequate you feel, the more you scroll, seeking validation in the form of likes and comments. But that validation is superficial and temporary. It never truly satisfies. So you post more, check more, scroll more, trapped in a perpetual cycle of seeking approval that never comes. This is called zombie scrolling. You're there, physically present but mentally absent, scrolling mechanically for hours without really absorbing anything, without feeling genuine pleasure, just filling a void that the scrolling itself created. A fascinating study on infinite scrolling and finite satisfaction found that the more people scroll, the less satisfied they feel. There's a paradox built into the design. Infinite scroll promises unlimited satisfaction, but delivers growing emptiness. And tech companies know this completely. Former engineers from Facebook, Google, and Twitter have come out publicly to admit they deliberately designed these platforms to be addictive. Tristan Harris, former design ethicist at Google, founded the Center for Humane Technology specifically to expose these practices. Asa Raskin, the inventor of Infinite Scroll, joined him. Both now spend their careers trying to undo the damage their inventions caused. Raskin said in an interview, "Being blind to how this would be used globally was, at best, globally immoral, or maybe even a little immoral." Think about that for a second. The people who built these tools are publicly saying they were designed to exploit human psychological vulnerabilities. It's not conspiracy theory. These are direct confessions, and the business model guarantees this will never change voluntarily. These companies don't sell products. They sell your attention. The more time you spend on the platform, the more ads you see, the more data they collect, the more money they make. The formula is simple and brutal. Your time, their money. That's why default privacy settings always favor data collection. That's why notification settings come turned on to the max. That's why canceling subscriptions is complicated, but signing up is one click. All of these are dark patterns designed to maximize engagement and data extraction. Regulators globally are starting to notice. The OECD published extensive reports on dark commercial patterns. Australia launched investigations into how deceptive patterns manipulate consumer data consent. But regulation is slow, and meanwhile billions of people are trapped in dopamine loops designed by behavioral scientists with billion-dollar budgets. So what do? How do you break a cycle designed by some of the world's best behavioral scientists with billion-dollar budgets? The good news is you're not powerless. Understanding the mechanics of manipulation is already the first step. Once you see the trick, it loses some of its power. But that alone isn't enough. You need concrete strategies. First, eliminate infinite scroll whenever possible. Many browsers have extensions that add forced pauses to social media feeds. After a few posts, you see a message. You've scrolled 20 posts. Are you sure you want to continue? That friction point, that second of awareness, is enough for your prefrontal cortex to wake up and take control back from your impulses. Second, turn off notifications, all of them. You don't need to know instantly that someone liked your photo. That artificial urgency is manufactured. Nothing truly important arrives via social media push notification. Set specific times to check your networks, 2 or 3 times a day, and ignore them completely outside those periods. Third, remove apps from your phone's home screen. Better yet, delete the apps completely and only access them through the browser. Each extra layer of friction reduces impulsive use. Studies show that just moving the Instagram icon to a second screen can reduce use by up to 40%. Fourth, use app timers. Both iOS and Android have built-in features that alert you when you reach time limits. Set 20 minutes per day on Instagram. When it's done, it's done. Your brain will protest initially. This is real withdrawal syndrome, but within a week, you'll adapt. Fifth, Replace. Don't just eliminate. If you simply stop using social media without filling that time with something meaningful, you'll feel emptiness. Your brain has been conditioned to seek constant stimulation, so you need to recondition. Read books, long complex ones that require sustained concentration. Meditate. Talk with people face to face. Create something with your hands. Sixth, practice intentional boredom. Seriously, just sit without your phone for 10 minutes. Do nothing. Let your mind wander. This is uncomfortable at first because your brain has been trained to seek instant dopamine. But boredom is where creativity happens. It's where you process emotions. It's where insights emerge. Seventh, establish phone-free zones. Your bedroom, especially 1 hour before sleep. The dinner table. Your work desk when you're in deep mode. The physical presence of the phone, even face down, even silent, reduces measurable cognitive capacity. Researchers call this the brain drain effect. Just knowing the phone is there consumes mental resources. Eighth, use grayscale mode. Most smartphones allow you to desaturate colors. Social media is designed with bright saturated colors, specifically to stimulate dopamine. Gray is boring. Boring is good. You can still use the phone when you need to, but that compulsion to just take a quick look decreases dramatically. Ninth, monitor your actual usage. Most people massively underestimate how much time they spend on screens. Use tracking apps. See the real numbers. When you realize you're spending 4 hours a day on TikTok, 28 hours per week, 1,456 hours per year, the reality becomes impossible to ignore. That's more than 60 complete days of life, awake, just scrolling videos. 10th, find community. There are growing movements of people doing dopamine detox or digital minimalism, subreddits, support groups, 30-day challenges. Behavioral change is easier when you're not alone, when there's accountability, when there are people who understand what you're facing. And here's something crucial. Don't blame yourself. You haven't failed. You're not weak. You're fighting against systems designed by entire teams of PhDs in behavioral neuroscience, tested on millions of users, refined through years of A/B testing to maximize addiction. The fact that you're watching this video, seeking to understand, already puts you ahead. Tech companies won't change voluntarily. Their business model fundamentally depends on capturing and monetizing your attention. They'll make small cosmetic adjustments when public pressure gets too high. Add a wellness dashboard here, you're using too much notification there. But fundamentally nothing changes because it can't change, not without destroying revenue. So the responsibility falls on you. But responsibility doesn't mean blame, it means power. You have control. You can choose not to participate, even partially. You can intentionally redesign your relationship with technology instead of letting engineers in Silicon Valley design it for you. And when you succeed, when you reclaim attention, when you read a 300-page book without pauses, when you spend an entire afternoon present and focused, when you sleep 8 hours without waking to check notifications, the difference is profound. You don't just feel less distracted, you feel fundamentally different, more present, more connected to your own experiences, more capable of sitting with discomfort without seeking immediate escape. Your brain is plastic. That means yes, it can be shaped by infinite scroll and variable reinforcement. But it also means it can be reshaped. Neurons that were dedicated to seeking dopamine on social media can be redirected. Reward pathways can be rewired. It takes time, usually a few weeks to feel real difference, months for lasting change, but it's completely possible. Thousands of people have already done this. Former social media addicts who now go days without checking Instagram, who deleted TikTok and don't miss it, who choose books instead of feeds, not because they're superhuman, but because they understood the game and decided to stop playing. So here's the reality. Your brain is being hacked, right at this moment. Every time you open a social media platform, algorithms designed specifically to exploit human neurological vulnerabilities are working to keep you there as long as possible. Infinite scroll isn't a design accident. It's a psychological weapon. Asa Raskin, its inventor, publicly admits he regrets it. Former engineers from Facebook, Google, and Twitter left their companies and now dedicate entire careers trying to expose these practices. It's not conspiracy theory. These are direct confessions. And the damage is real, measurable. We're not talking about young people spend too much time online. We're talking about structural brain changes, prefrontal cortex shrinkage, dopaminergic dysregulation, documented increases in anxiety, depression, attention fragmentation, and social isolation. Brain rot isn't an exaggeration. It's neuroscience. 33 million Americans are officially addicted to social media. The average person checks their phone 205 times a day. Teens are almost constantly online. 3 hours a day, 1 to 95 hours a year. Decades of life lost in dopamine loops designed to never end. But here's what tech companies don't want you to know. You can get out. Not completely, we live in a digital world, but intentionally. You can redesign your relationship with technology. You can reclaim attention. You can reconnect neurons. You can choose. Because in the end, this is about choice. Not the illusion of choice that algorithms give you by personalizing feeds. Real choice, real awareness, real control over where your attention, your most precious resource, your own life, is invested. Once you see how the machine works, you can't unsee it. Every notification, every pull to refresh, every autoplay, you'll recognize it as manipulation. And recognition is power. Your brain deserves better than being treated as a product in a social slot machine. Your life deserves better than being measured in hours spent generating ad revenue for billionaires. So next time you open Instagram just take a quick look. Remember, this isn't willpower failing. This is engineering working. And now that you know, the choice is yours. The scroll will continue to be infinite, but your participation in it doesn't have to be.